We often think the other person is too manipulative or that we're too weak to let go. But the truth is often unspoken. The relationship awakens something already inside you. It stirs up old wounds, emotions that were never named, beliefs that were quietly ingrained long ago about your worth, about love, and about acceptance. The most dangerous part of a toxic relationship isn't the other person. It's the psychological connection that forms a bond that causes you to hurt, not only because of the present, but because of what you believed it could become. You're not only hurting from being mistreated, but also from hope, a hope that has no ground, yet strong enough to keep you tied. This isn't a story of weakness, it's a story of how pain gets programmed into perception. And to break free, it's not enough to simply walk away. You must understand what part of you is keeping you there. That's the first step toward true freedom. This is what many people fail to understand, both outsiders and those in the relationship. They think if the relationship is bad, all it takes is strength to leave, but emotions don't operate on logic. Each time you're hurt, then comforted, then love just a little. Your brain forms a loop and soon you become trapped in that emotional cycle waiting for the next good moment, even if it's rare and fleeting. Worse still, you become the one defending the person who hurt you. You make excuses for them, for yourself, and begin to doubt your own feelings. Part of you still believes, maybe they'll change, maybe I haven't tried hard enough, or I can't walk away, there are too many memories. But none of that is a real bond. It's just emotional conditioning built over time. You're not being held hostage behind a locked door. You're sitting in a room with an open door. You just fear there's nothing better outside. And that fear, not love, is what's keeping you there. When you realize this, you no longer see yourself as someone held back by others, but someone needing to free yourself from emotional dependency. That's when you begin reclaiming your freedom. Your childhood shapes how you love, even when it hurts you. No one is born knowing how to love. Love isn't purely instinct. It's something learned and remembered from childhood. And sadly, many people learned love through pain. If, as a child, you grew up in a home where affection was unpredictable attention one day, indifference the next, praise one moment, harsh criticism the next, your mind begins to form a dangerous belief. Love is something you must earn. It is unstable, and it can be taken away at any time. This isn't your fault. It's the psychological outcome of internalized conditional love. And if you don't recognize it, you'll repeat the same hurtful patterns with different faces. You'll choose people who don't love you properly and try to fix their love like you're trying to repair something from your past. Only when you look at your childhood with compassion and clarity can you break the cycle. You need to ask, how did I learn to love? And is that way of loving hurting me again? When you're brave enough to answer, you're not just healing the present, you're healing the child in you who was left unloved. And from that, a new kind of love can begin. Old wounds always find their way. Back in the disguise of someone new, you think you're falling in love with someone new, but in truth, you're falling back into a familiar feeling, one that's been with you for a long time in a different form. This love, which feels so fresh, is actually a reflection of wounds that never healed. And that's why you feel so drawn to it powerfully, even irrationally. This is a subtle psychological mechanism. You feel compelled to rewrite an old story by reliving it now with the hope of a different ending. But the truth is, you're giving your soul to a game that you're destined to lose. This person isn't the character from the past, yet you've unconsciously assigned them that role and hoped they'll deliver redemption. And so you repeat the pain only now with someone new. You might not remember exactly where the pain began, but the feeling it left behind is unmistakable. The feeling of not being enough, not worthy, constantly having to earn love. And only when you recognize this recurring pattern can you finally put down the role you've been playing. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Sometimes they're mirrors showing you the wounds you still carry. And their role ends when you become aware enough to begin healing, not to keep suffering. Once the wound is named, it no longer disguises itself in new faces. You stop loving to redeem the past and begin loving to fully live the present. When Love turns into an addiction, the psychological trap. You don't see if they were always cruel to you. Maybe you would have left easily, but they're not. They're cold, then kind. They make you cry, then comfort you with soft apologies. They push you away, but just when you're ready to leave, they pull you back with a warm look or a familiar touch. And you think, maybe they still love me. Maybe it's not that bad. But that's not love. That's an addiction sustained by a real psychological mechanism. Intermittent reinforcement, studied by psychologist B.F. Skinner. This is a form of conditioning where people become obsessed with rewards that come unpredictably and inconsistently. In one experiment, when rats received food each time they pressed a lever, they responded steadily, but when the food came randomly, with no pattern, they began pressing the lever, frantically obsessed, compulsive, unable to stop, just like how you stay in this relationship. Not because you don't know it hurts, but because you're still waiting for that one moment of kindness to return. Those rare moments of tenderness are what you cling to. You hope, excuse, overlook all the harmful behavior just for another fleeting taste of love. And the danger is, you start lowering your standards. You begin to settle for less and less as long as there's some love left. You used to want respect, safety, and recognition. Now, you just hope they're not distant, that they'll text first, that they won't hurt you too much today. Manipulators don't need to be cruel all the time. They just need to know when to be kind and when to withdraw, keeping you in a constant state of instability. You're always in a reactive position, waiting for kindness, trying not to trigger their anger, managing yourself just to preserve that fragile, temporary peace. And you think you're doing it for love, but you're no longer yourself. You've become a more fragile version, hesitant, anxious, living in fear and hope. They don't need to chain you with violence or threats. All they need is to implant one belief, that everything good depends on them, that only they can make you feel loved or worthy. You begin to change. You silence yourself to avoid upsetting them. You second-guess your feelings whenever you sense something's wrong. And when they hurt you, you're no longer angry. You're afraid that if you react, they'll leave. That's not love. That's emotional programming, where you slowly forget your own inner voice and live entirely by the emotional rhythm of someone else. When you call that dependency love, you distort one of the purest human experiences. Real love doesn't come from control, it comes from safety. And if someone makes you fight against yourself every day just to keep them around, what you're holding on to isn't love, it's a well-disguised form of emotional control. Healing begins when you call things by their true name, and from there, you can finally choose to walk away. When you start doubting yourself, gaslighting is the most dangerous weapon. There's a terrifying moment in a toxic relationship when you no longer trust your own emotions. You see something clearly wrong, you feel something unjust, you even have proof that something is off. But after just a few words from them, you start to question yourself. Did I misunderstand? Am I overreacting? Maybe I really am too sensitive. That's not weakness. It's the effect of one of the most dangerous psychological manipulations, gaslighting. This is when someone distorts your reality, slowly causing you to lose trust in your own emotions, memories, and perceptions. And once you lose faith in yourself, you begin to rely on them to tell you what's real and what's not. When you speak up about what hurts, they respond with things like, "You're imagining things. I never said that. You're too sensitive. You're always making a big deal out of nothing." These repeated denials don't just confuse you, they make you question your sanity. You start rereading old texts, retracing conversations, searching for proof that you're not crazy, but even when you find it, you're no longer sure you have the right to feel hurt. Gaslighting doesn't need to be loud or abusive. All it takes is a little denial, a little twisting of facts, a little gentle blaming repeated over time, and it completely unravels your ability to trust your own mind. Worst of all, you begin doing it to yourself, apologizing for things you didn't do, suppressing your feelings, adjusting your truth to fit someone else's narrative. Someone who loves you doesn't make you question who you are. They don't play games with your clarity or your trust. If you constantly have to convince yourself that you're not crazy, chances are you're living in a manipulated reality. The first step out isn't proving who's right, it's believing your own feelings again. That's the only compass left to guide you home. carrying the blame for the one who hurt you, the reflective trap that destroys you. One of the cruelest tactics in toxic relationships is projection. This is when the person who wronged you turns around and blames you for doing exactly what they did. They betray you but accuse you of being disloyal. They lie but say you're dishonest. They lash out but claim you're the one who's made them lose control. And if you hear this long enough, you begin to believe it. You don't just feel confused, you feel guilty. You apologize for things you never did. You try to fix problems that were never yours to solve. You live in a constant state of defense, always trying to prove that you're not bad, not wrong, not the problem. But this is no longer a relationship. It's an invisible tribunal where you carry both people's wounds on your back. When manipulation goes on long enough, you start to internalize the other person's nature as if it were your own truth. And this is the moment you begin losing yourself. You can't tell which feelings are real, whose fault anything is. You're crushed under the weight of emotions you were never meant to bear. And the most painful part is, you stop getting angry. You stop asking questions. You stop standing up for yourself. But stop for a moment. Listen to the way you speak to yourself. Are those critical voices truly yours? Or are they echoes of the other person etched into your psyche, making you replay their accusations even when they're not around? It's not that you can't live without them. It's that you're afraid of being alone. Many people stay in toxic relationships, not because they're still in love, but because they're afraid of what comes after. It's an unspoken but intense fear, the fear of emptiness, of facing yourself, of having no one to fill the silence, and sometimes people choose familiar pain over the unknown length of loneliness. But society helps fuel that fear since childhood. We're taught that happiness means having someone by your side. Movies glorify sacrifices for love. Songs declare, "I can't live without you." And social media overflows with images of perfect couples. Rarely does anyone say, sometimes choosing to be alone is the bravest thing you can do. So when you're standing in a painful relationship, you're not just confronting that person, you're confronting a definition of happiness you were conditioned to believe. You don't know whether solitude is scarier than continuing to endure. You begin to doubt, maybe no one else will love me. Maybe I'm not good enough for someone new. Maybe this is the price I pay not to be abandoned. But remember, that fear of loneliness may not be real. It's often the result of having lost touch with yourself for too long. You've forgotten how strong you were, how independent, how full of dreams, feelings, and a unique identity before they came into your life. Being alone is not as frightening as staying with someone who makes you shrink a little more each day just to avoid pain. Love is not about finding someone to fill a void. It's about walking alongside someone once you're already whole. When you face your fear of loneliness head on, you'll realize it's just a fog. On the other side is light you've never dared to step into. But only when you walk alone will you realize you were never truly alone. You were returning to the one person who can actually heal you, yourself. You're not addicted to them. You're addicted to the first version of them. You still think you love them, that you're staying because your feelings are too deep. But if you look closely, you'll see what's really keeping you from leaving isn't who they are now, it's who they were at the beginning, when they loved you the right way. When they made you believe in something whole, that version, gentle, understanding, sweet, is what you're clinging to. And you believe that if you just try a little harder, they'll come back. But that's only an illusion, a version crafted to make you stay, then disappeared once they knew you were hooked. You cling to the past as proof that love once existed, but you forget. The present reveals the truth. Someone who truly loves you doesn't just love you in the beginning. They love you in the ordinary, everyday moments where they choose to remain kind, to keep valuing you, even when there's nothing left to win. Don't let the memory of a past version keep you chained to a present that's harming you. You don't need to live off memories. You need to live by truth, even if it hurts, because only the truth can set you free. Emotional detox requires a decisive commitment. No contact, no watching, no hoping, no more "we can still be friends," no more checking in to see if they realize what they lost. Every silent interaction reignites the old dependency. You don't need closure. You don't need one final conversation. What you need is silence long enough for your mind to reset to live without revolving around the emotions of the one who hurt you. Only then can real healing begin. The craving will return, and you'll mistake it for missing them. Even after you've left, blocked them, and cut off all ties, there will be days when the longing crashes over you like a tidal wave. You'll feel empty, unsettled, and wonder, did I just lose something precious? But the truth is, you don't miss them. You're going through emotional withdrawal. Your brain had become addicted to the rare, sporadic kindness they offered. Now that the stimulation is gone, your mind reacts the same way it would without a drug, restless, nostalgic, even questioning your decision. You start to recall only the good memories and dismiss the rest. You wonder, maybe I was too harsh? What if I was the one at fault? But don't turn back. That's not sincere love calling you. It's your nervous system reacting to a cycle of instability. The only way through is not to give in. Let the craving pass without feeding it endure long enough, and the intensity will fade, and you'll start to see the truth clearly. What you're mourning may not have been love at all. Reclaiming your identity. When you no longer see yourself through their eyes. A toxic relationship doesn't just damage your emotions, it distorts your sense of self. After prolonged manipulation, blame, and invalidation, you begin to view yourself through their eyes. Someone not good enough, not worthy, someone who must change to be loved. You forget who you were before you met them. You no longer remember what you liked, what you dreamed of, or how you lived when you weren't constantly bending to fit someone else's expectations. You exist in a warped version of yourself, an identity shaped by rejection rather than love. Recovering from a toxic relationship isn't just about healing wounds, it's about rebirth. It's a journey back to your original self, strong, truthful, and deserving of respect. It's having the courage to look in the mirror and ask, who am I when I no longer have to please anyone? And you'll discover, beneath all the pain, someone still capable of love, but this time, the kind of love that starts with yourself. No one saves you unless you choose yourself deep down. Maybe you still hope that one day they'll wake up, realize what they lost, come back and apologize for everything. Maybe you wait for a sign, a call, or a confession to finally end the pain. But the truth is, no one is coming to save you. There's no magic moment, no perfect closure. No one from the outside can deliver the redemption you're seeking, because true rescue begins the moment you choose yourself to walk away, to stop, to no longer inflict pain on yourself for the sake of a fading illusion. That choice is not easy. It's full of doubt, inner battles, and sleepless nights where you have no idea where you're going. But that's the moment awakening begins. When you step forward, even though the path is unclear, no one can live for you. No one can carry your pain, and no one can give you your worth if you're not willing to reclaim it from those who made you forget what you deserve. Choosing yourself is the first brave act and the foundation of every healing that follows. Society has romanticized pain, turned endurance into beauty, turned sacrifice into virtue, and forgotten that there are limits that should never be crossed, especially when your kindness is being exploited. In this narrative, no one taught you how to leave, no one encouraged you to set boundaries, and no one told you it's okay to say, I deserve a love that doesn't hurt. Love is not a battlefield, it's not a test of patience, nor a wrestling match to keep someone around. You don't have to be the resilient victim just to prove you love deeply. Real love doesn't make you lose yourself. It helps you become the fullest, freest version of who you are. It's time to redefine love into something healthy, kind, and truly worthy of your heart. You weren't born to be loved. You were born to be yourself. You've spent too much time trying to prove that you're lovable. You changed yourself, suppressed your feelings, sacrificed your needs just to hold on to someone or to keep a feeling that once existed. But at some point, you have to ask, what am I living for? Is it just to be loved or to be me? A healthy relationship isn't where you trade your essence for affection. It's where you're allowed to be you fully, honestly, without performance. And if love demands that you lose yourself, the price is too high for any emotion, even love. You weren't born to chase someone. You were born to live a meaningful life as yourself, not as someone's reflection, not as a projection of their expectations. Love should not be the ultimate goal. It's just one piece of a greater journey, the journey of wholeness, freedom, and awakening. Once you understand that, you no longer see leaving as loss, but as transformation. You stop living to be loved and start living to be real. And on that path, if love comes, it will never ask you to sacrifice your truth to earn it. Happiness doesn't come from holding on, but from letting go at the right time. Some things were once your whole world, but one day you must let them go. Not because you stopped loving, but because you started loving yourself more, because you realize not everything you desire is meant to be kept, especially if it's taking pieces of you every day. Letting go is not failure, it is growth. It's when you understand that love isn't about exhausting yourself to hold on to what's already broken. It's when you're clear-eyed enough to stop before you lose yourself completely. It's when you know you don't need someone to validate your worth because you already have it. Freedom doesn't come from being held on to. Freedom comes from the courage to let go of unfulfilled promises, distorted memories, and expectations that bring pain. When you let go, not because you stopped loving, but because you won't trade your self-respect for a half-hearted love, that's when you step into a new life. Don't be afraid to walk away. Don't fear the silence, because in that silence, you'll hear your own voice clearly, fully, and worth listening to. And then you'll realize sometimes the true beginning comes from one brave, final goodbye. You've been through pain, doubt, confusion, and moments when you almost gave up, but if you're still reading this, it means there's a part of you that has awakened a small but steady voice that knows you deserve more. Don't let old pain define you. Don't let a wrong relationship blur your worth. The road ahead may not be easy, but it is a journey back to yourself, and that will always be the most worthwhile journey of all.